Hi, my name is Wendy. Today, I will be presenting our paper on challenges and opportunities for data-centric peer evaluation tools for teamwork. Suppose we have a team of students working on a course project. The instructor has a limited view into the team because most of the work is performed outside of the classroom, and there are many other teams in the class they have to manage. Therefore, they use only the final outcome, whether that's a presentation, a research paper, or physical product, to evaluate the team. But this leaves many questions unanswered. For example, how do we know if there are problems on the team? How do we know if each team member contributed equally? How do we know if students are actually improving their teamwork skills? A well-known and popular solution to this problem is to use peer evaluations. Instead of instructors trying to evaluate the team only with their own limited knowledge, students can tell instructors directly what they think about their team and its members. However, peer evaluations also suffer from concerns about unreliability and bias. Students may not be completely honest or able to evaluate each other fairly and accurately. Instructors, in turn, may not be able to judge the accuracy of peer evaluations. In this paper, we explore activity traces as a potential solution to these problems. We define activity traces as an objective record of contribution automatically captured by an online tool. We especially focus on online collaborative tools often used by teams. These tools include document editors such as Google Docs, version control systems such as GitHub, and communication tools such as Slack and Zoom. For example, GitHub shows a visual summary of code commits from each contributor to the repository. Google Docs version history feature displays a chronological view of edits made on the document by each editor. Prior work has shown that activity traces affect impression formation between users in online peer production communities, which can affect how they evaluate each other's contributions. However, there is little knowledge about how students and instructors might leverage activity traces for peer evaluations of teamwork in the classroom. In order to understand how to effectively utilize activity traces in the peer evaluation process, we sought to explore the challenges and concerns instructors and students have with using existing peer evaluation processes. These insights can help us identify key values to incorporate in the design of future tools. Therefore, we ask 1. What social and cognitive factors affect students' attitudes and approaches toward peer evaluations? And 2. What are instructors' goals for using peer evaluations, and what challenges do they face in operationalizing these goals? Finally, we investigate emergent and future uses of activity traces in the peer evaluation process by asking, how might instructors and students leverage online activity traces when evaluating students' contributions in teams? To answer these research questions, we interviewed and surveyed students across different courses and disciplines who had performed peer evaluations as part of their teamwork experience. We also interviewed instructors teaching courses that spanned different enrollment sizes and different disciplines that involved teamwork. We primarily discussed key findings from our student and instructor interviews in this presentation. From the student interviews, we found that students relied strongly on their subjective experiences. They admitted to being overly lenient in their evaluations of friends or classmates they knew they would see again, and even described instances where team members would collude with each other to determine what to put on the evaluations. Another factor that affected their evaluations was that students had different standards for evaluation, even between their teammates and themselves. For instructors, their goals for evaluating student teams were to assess individual contributions within teams, especially to assign grades fairly, to identify potential dysfunctions early so they could help the team to resolve them, and to help students develop valuable teamwork skills. However, the reality of the situation was that they often lacked time and resources to effectively administer, facilitate, or interpret evaluations. This resulted in, among other issues, a trade-off between the quality and efficiency of the assessment process, which limited how often they deployed peer evaluations, the length and format of the evaluations, and their ability to provide feedback. Instructors also experienced challenges with interpreting the results of the evaluations, due to concerns about their reliability and accuracy. To address the challenges described, at least with interpreting evaluation results, instructors saw other sources of data to corroborate the results and validate outliers or discrepancies in the data. The most common source of data used was activity traces from tools that student teams used. Instructors felt that these traces were more objective while providing detailed information about individual contributions and team processes. For example, one instructor described using Google Docs for assignments because they could look at the version history and see exactly where students were contributing. Because the activity traces were logged in real time, instructors did not experience the administrative overhead that they would with setting up multiple meetings or peer evaluations throughout the semester. Student interviewees, for the most part, felt they could rely on their own memory and subjective experiences when completing peer evaluations, despite the factors discussed previously that hindered their reliability and accuracy. This confidence may be due in part to their monitoring of the logs during the teamwork experience, which made them feel like they did not need to consult the activity logs while completing the evaluations. The exception to this was if the student felt there was a problem on the team or that they needed to be more critical in their evaluations and wanted to check the logs for peace of mind. Activity traces are not without their concerns, however. Both instructors and students described the diversity of tools and platforms that teams use, each of which may capture different aspects of students' contributions. Students felt that activity traces from different tools should be combined in order to paint a useful and complete picture of what teams are doing. However, it is infeasible for instructors to collect and parse through information from all of these tools by themselves, especially for tools that do not have easy-to-interpret visual summaries. In addition, students worried that tools would not be able to capture the context of their contributions or their team dynamics. For example, different roles on the team could mean different levels of contribution on different tools. Activity traces also failed to capture the difficulty or effort put into contributions. Based on instructors' and students' existing practices, challenges, and goals, we propose several design implications for not just corroborating peer evaluation data with activity traces, but integrating activity traces within the peer evaluation process. We further explore a few of these implications through a speculative design of a data-centric peer evaluation tool. To address the multitude of tools used by students, data-centric peer evaluation tools should provide support for a variety of activity trace sources. Automatic collection, aggregation, and visualization of activity traces across different sources, as shown in the dashboard on the right, will reduce the burden on instructors to collect and parse extensive data in their already resource-constrained classrooms. Students can further attach visual summaries of their data as a means to provide impartial evidence for their evaluation and alleviate their own anxiety about being critical of their team members. Activity trace data provide objective, often quantitative information about the team, which is easier to interpret for instructors. However, students should be able to contextualize their contributions by, for example, annotating or tagging the visual summaries with information such as the difficulty or effort put into the contribution or extenuating circumstances that affected their ability to contribute. To counteract the possibility of inconsistent or biased responses, data-centric peer evaluation tools can also calibrate evaluation standards with the activity trace data from each team. A simple fact-checking system can alert students who submit evaluations significantly different from what the data shows and request an explanation for the discrepancy. It can also automatically flag these discrepancies to instructors so they can take a closer look at the evaluations and/or activity traces. Through interviews and surveys with students and instructors, we surface key challenges and opportunities for leveraging activity traces to avoid the pitfalls of existing peer evaluation processes. Now we provide the following takeaways for instructors and designers. Instructors that currently use activity traces in their evaluation process should carefully consider the diverse ecosystem of tools used by student teams and the rich context that is as of yet missing from activity traces. Instructors that do not yet use activity traces should consider how leveraging activity traces can support their own goals for assessing teams and address challenges they currently face. Finally, we hope that the design implications we proposed and demonstrated through our speculative tool will challenge tool designers to build a new class of data-centric peer evaluation tools. We thank you for listening to this presentation.